Hi, welcome back. So my name's Paulus, and today we're going to talk about the 6 stages of scaling a business and really to determine where you are right now. So one of the biggest mistakes I see business owners making again and again is not understanding the different stages of scaling a business and trying to solve the wrong issue at the wrong time. Seriously, this simple mistake accounts for thousands of broken, failed companies and a ton of wasted time and revenue. But don't worry, in this video, I'm going to share what the stages of business growth are and how to work out what challenges you should be solving. Let's go ahead and get started. So the last several months, I've been putting together something I'm calling the impact equation. And what this is it shows the different phases that we go through in business and really what is required in those different phases. What I realize is a lot of entrepreneurs might do things too soon before they should, or they get stuck because they don't know what they should be focusing on. So really what I've done is I compiled all of it into an easy framework that will help you get unstuck, get you that next phase of business and growing your company as fast as you possibly can. Okay, so let's just go ahead and dig right into the 6 phases of business. So what I've done in the impact equation is broken it into 3 main phases first. So I talk about the startup phase, the growth phase, and the evergreen phase. And in each of those 3 phases, I actually break them into 2 sub-phases. So in the startup phase, we have ideation and validation. In the growth stage, we have pre-scale and scale. And then in the evergreen stage, we have something I call creative expansion and then transition. So let's dig into each one and break down which one might apply to you and how you can get unstuck in that phase and get moving into the next phase of business. Okay, so let's dig into the ideation phase. So the ideation phase could be when you're first starting out in your company, but I've also seen it happen with companies that maybe have done a significant pivot or shift in their company, and it kind of kicks them back into ideation for a little while. And you'll understand what I mean in just a second here. So ideation, a lot of what needs to go on in that phase is around kind of the human-centered design, if you've ever heard of that, and I'll explain what that is. But really, this phase should all be about testing and experimenting and trying to find what the true problem is that you're trying to solve. I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs where they go and come up with an idea first and then hope that people want that idea. But a better way to go about it is actually to go and empathize first with the people that you want to work with and say, what are the problems that they're having, and really start to talk with them and really, again, empathize and understand what they're experiencing. And that'll allow you to kind of figure out, well, what solutions could I have to that problem? If you already have an idea, you still want to go through these steps because you might get so far along, you've invested so much and you realize you don't have a product that people want. So again, it's better to start with the problem, empathize with them, and then define what that problem is and really start to understand it. And then what you can do is create almost a prototype around it. Start and go and talk to people about it and say, hey, I have this thing and let's test it. And I'm talking about physical products and non-physical products. There's a lot of truths that can be found in kind of a physical product world that we can adapt to service industries. So a lot of times, even when I talk about service industries, I'll talk about products. I always try to say, how can we bundle it into an offer, like a product offering, right? So even if you're in the service industry, this applies to you. Then once you go and have a prototype, you can kind of test it and kind of get your first 10 customers. But you might be saying, but I don't have a product yet. But people are going to be willing to buy if you show them, if you can clearly define what the problem is that they have. So in this phase, just understand that it doesn't always work that you can get 10 customers before you have a product, but I challenge you to say, could I pre-sell 10 things to show that this prototype would work before I go out and build the thing. So it could be related to maybe a software where you wanted to, before you created a minimum viable product for that, but it also could be related to like events or informational products. Like go and sell it first and make sure people want it, and then go and invest the money into creating the courses and creating the events. So I know it makes you, that's really uncomfortable not to have things predefined, but I promise you it'll make your life so much easier because you won't have invested a ton of time and money before you know that somebody wants it or not. So after you've prototyped it, then again, you go and test. You test and they say, okay, did this work? If not, tweak it, pivot, test again. And then you can really start to see if it is something that will work for you. So the next phase of business is the phase I call validation. And this is really you're validating your product or service. And really what you want to focus on in this stage is going deeper into that customer experience. A lot of times people in this stage want to start hiring employees and starting to build a team, but I challenge you to wait as long as possible. How much can you do yourself or use outsourcing types solutions to help solve that? So that way you're not trying to focus on how do I continue to build the value for the customer and also try to figure out how to build a team. It'll split your focus too much where you can't get successful, profitable launches in your product. Because in this phase, you really want to get a profitable product. So meaning your revenue minus your cost of goods sold, you want to show profit there. So validation phase, again, it's all about finding the successful product, validating it with an actual minimum viable product, doing a successful launch. So launch the product and create a profitable product line from that. Now that doesn't mean your bottom line, but I am talking about gross profit. So revenue minus cost of goods sold. And in this phase, I challenge you to go high ticket if you can. Do a pilot where you're charging more because you're going to have to do a lot more hand holding, heavy lifting, consulting to get the product out there. So a lot of times you can actually charge for that extra hand holding that the customer might get. So the next phase is pre-scale. And this is where almost every entrepreneur get stuck, it seems like, and they can't get to the next phase of scale. But before I jump into that, if you like videos like this where it helps you as an entrepreneur really know what to do next and really be able to help you be honest with where you're at in your business and what you should be doing, I would love for you to like and subscribe. This is how I can get this message out to the world, out to entrepreneurs. I just love serving entrepreneurs and helping us all make it simpler. So go ahead and like and subscribe, and I would love that. Okay, so now let's talk about pre-scale. I would say if I took all of my clients, I almost feel like almost 80% of them get stuck in this phase. And I think there's several reasons that people get stuck in this phase. It's a lot has to happen in the pre-scale phase. You have to start building a team. You have to start building processes and systems. You have to start focusing on not just bringing in sales, but also customer retention. How do you get the clients to stay with you and start referring people to you? Because that is what's going to keep building the momentum in your company. So a lot of clients get stuck in this phase. And a lot of times it could be related to not willing to take the risk, not willing to invest in yourself. A lot of times you get comfortable with the profit margins when you don't have a team. So you're like, I don't want to cut into my profits. But I promise you, if you want to get to that next level and you don't want to be a glorified employee for the rest of your life, this is what's required to get to that next stage. And keep an eye on cash flow. So cash flow is really critical in this stage. You're starting to have a lot of expenses, a lot of things happening. So you want to keep an eye on your profitability and your cash flow as you're growing. Okay, so now let's dig into the scale phase. So in other phases, we went from focusing on the customer experience only, and then we started to add in the customer experience and the employee experience. Then when you get into scale phase, you actually want to add in what I call strategic partner experiences as well. So finding those strategic partners that can help grow your business to the next level as well. Can you create affiliates? Can you partner with other companies? I always talk about how, if you work together, all ships can rise with the tide, right? How can you make other people that complement your product successful as well, because they can help make you successful and vice versa. And that's where you can really start to really expand and grow your business fast. So in the scale phase, you also need to be focused on customer delight. So in pre-scale, you're focused more on just meeting the basic needs of your customer, what I call just customer satisfaction. In scale phase, I love to find ways that you can go above and beyond what the customer is expecting. Okay, now let's move into creative expansion. So this is after you've gotten a core offering successful, profitable, been able to scale it up. Now it's time to start figuring out how to diversify that product offering, maybe move into other product lines. This is where, again, you can be the visionary again and start creating new ways to expand your company. I always talk about if your company isn't growing, it's dying. You're never stagnant. So that old phase of business where they talk about being in the mature phase, that doesn't exist. There is no maturity. You have to continue to be agile and adapting and growing no matter what size of company you are. We saw big companies that thought they got too comfortable in this phase, and they are no longer here. So as you're growing and getting bigger, you have to figure out how to expand. You've probably started to tap out a lot of your customer base and starting to get into a lot more colder audiences where it might be more difficult. So as you start to diversify into other different offerings, it can help kind of start that product offering actually back at the ideation phase. So don't think just because you're here, like when you start a new product, it actually kicks you back to ideation for that product, not your company as a whole. And then you can kind of go through those steps I just talked about all the way through a new product. So it can really help you just in your mind, just know, okay, what do I need to do when and what do I need to focus on? And the last phase is transition. This is really when you're ready to exit your company. Even if you're not ready to exit your company, I always say everybody will eventually exit their company no matter what. So it's important to think about this phase even when you're in all the other 5 phases. When you're in the transition phase, you really need to act like a true CEO or a true owner where your company can run without you. If you went and left for 3 months, your company would still grow because that is going to be very desirable to the person that wants to buy your company. There's more than one way to create wealth in your company. Cash flow is one way, but the value of your organization when you sell it is actually a bigger and better way to create wealth. And so just understand that if you start early on trying to build the processes and the systems and the ability for your business to run again without you, you're going to set yourself up when you are ready to exit your company. You're not going to have to wait 3 to 5 years to get it all in line first. So no matter what phase you're in, think of that phase now, because you never know what might pop up in your company where you need to adapt and change. Now that you've learned about the different phases of business, you can actually determine what phase you are in. And the way to do that is I have a free assessment that you can take. If you go to theimpactequation.com, you can take that assessment, you can figure out what phase you're in, and really get you going on the next step in your company. It'll keep you focused and keep you on the right track. So again, you can go to theimpactequation.com.